The Norse gods knew how they would die. They knew the wolf that would swallow Odin. They knew the serpent that would poison Thor. They knew the winter that would come before the world ended. And still, they could not stop it. Imagine a world where the gods do not sit safely above creation. Imagine gods who feast in golden halls, who command thunder, wisdom, war, and magic, but who wake each morning beneath the shadow of a prophecy they cannot escape. In Norse mythology, the gods were powerful. But they were not eternal. They were not perfect rulers watching calmly from the heavens. They were beings trapped inside fate. And somewhere, far beyond the walls of Asgard, the ending was already waiting for them. This is the mystery at the heart of Ragnarok. Not simply the end of the world. Not just a final battle of gods and monsters. But a story about what happens when even the divine know they are going to die. The Old Norse sources, especially poems preserved in the Poetic Edda and stories retold in the Prose Edda, describe a universe that feels alive, dangerous, and fragile. These texts were written down in medieval Iceland, after the Viking Age, but they preserve echoes of older myths once spoken aloud in halls, beside fires, and beneath northern skies. In those stories, the universe does not begin as a peaceful kingdom. It begins in a vast emptiness. A cold void. A place between ice and fire. From that strange beginning, the world slowly takes shape. Gods rise. Giants appear. Seas, mountains, stars, and humans enter the story. But from the very beginning, there is a hidden tension in everything. Creation is never safe. It is only temporary. At the center of this universe stands Yggdrasil, the world tree. Picture it rising beyond imagination, its branches stretching over the heavens, its roots sinking into secret places no god fully controls. Around it lie the many worlds of Norse myth. Asgard, the shining realm of the gods. Midgard, the world of humans. Jotunheim, land of giants. Hel, the cold realm of the dead. And other worlds, half-glimpsed, shadowed, mysterious. Yggdrasil holds them all together. But even the world tree suffers. Creatures gnaw at its roots. Serpents coil below it. An eagle watches from its highest branches. Messages move through it like whispers through an ancient body. This is not a universe built from stone. It is a living thing. And living things can be wounded. Above this trembling cosmos stands Asgard, the home of the Aesir gods. In modern popular culture, Asgard is often imagined as a bright fantasy kingdom, almost invincible, almost triumphant. But in the older myths, Asgard feels more complicated. It is glorious, yes. It has halls, feasts, warriors, and divine power. But it is also a fortress. A place built against fear. The gods know there are forces outside their walls that will one day break through. At the center of Asgard sits Odin. Not simply a king. Not simply a war god. Odin is the seeker. The wanderer. The god who is never satisfied with what he knows. He sends his ravens across the worlds to gather news. He sacrifices for wisdom. He speaks with the dead. He searches for secrets in places other gods fear to look. And the more Odin learns, the darker the future becomes. Because wisdom, in Norse mythology, is not always comforting. Sometimes wisdom means seeing the disaster before anyone else does. Odin learns of Ragnarok. The word itself is often understood as the doom or fate of the gods. In modern use, people often treat Ragnarok as a dramatic apocalypse, a mythological explosion at the end of time. But in the old stories, it is more haunting than that. It is a prophecy. A chain of events. A future that has already begun forming long before anyone can stop it. That is what makes Ragnarok different from many end-of-the-world stories. The gods do not stumble into it by accident. They know. Odin knows that a wolf waits for him. Thor knows that the serpent of the world is his enemy. The gods know that certain forces have been bound, imprisoned, delayed, but not destroyed. And this is where the myth becomes painfully human. Because what do you do when you know the ending? Do you run from it? Do you fight it? Do you pretend it will never come? Or do you walk toward it anyway? The Norse myths do not give us gods who can erase fate. They give us gods who must live beneath it. And that may tell us something about the world that imagined them. Historically, the people who told these stories lived in landscapes where survival was never guaranteed. Winters could be long. Seas could turn deadly. Harvests could fail. Feuds could destroy families. A person could be brave, skilled, loved, and still lose everything. Scholars often interpret Ragnarok through that worldview, not as simple despair, but as a myth shaped by people who understood that courage does not mean controlling the future. Courage means facing it. And no figure carries that burden more heavily than Odin. Imagine him in his high seat, looking across the worlds while ravens return with news. Somewhere beneath the earth, old powers stir. Somewhere in the deep sea, a serpent grows large enough to encircle the world. Somewhere in chains, a wolf waits. These are not random monsters. They are signs of a universe storing its own destruction. Fenrir, the great wolf, is one of the most terrifying figures in the prophecy. He is not merely a beast. He is the child of Loki, and from the beginning, the gods fear what he may become. They try to bind him, and for a time, they succeed. But binding something is not the same as defeating it. That idea returns again and again in Ragnarok. The gods delay the end. They do not prevent it. Then there is Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, cast into the ocean, growing in the darkness until it surrounds the world itself. Beneath calm waves, the threat continues to live. Every tide becomes a reminder that something enormous is hidden below. And then there is Loki. In modern popular understanding, Loki is often imagined as charming, clever, almost playful. But in the older mythological sources, Loki is far more dangerous. He is a boundary breaker, a shapeshifter, a problem the gods can use until they can no longer control him. He helps them. He harms them. He solves disasters he helped create. He belongs among the gods, yet he is never fully safe among them. And through Loki, Ragnarok begins to feel less like an invasion from outside, and more like a crack forming inside the divine world itself. That crack widens with the story of Baldr. Baldr is one of the most beloved of the gods. Beautiful, radiant, and associated with goodness, he seems almost untouched by darkness. In the myths, his death becomes one of the first great signs that the old order is beginning to fail. Before he dies, Baldr dreams of his own end. The gods are disturbed. Odin, always searching, rides toward the realm of the dead to ask what the dream means. The answer is not comforting. Something is coming for Baldr. And if Baldr can die, then no light in Asgard is truly safe. His mother, Frigg, tries to protect him. She seeks promises from things across the world that they will not harm her son. Metal, stone, illness, fire, water, beasts, birds, the living world itself seems to swear peace. For a moment, it looks as if fate has been outwitted. The gods begin to test Baldr's protection. They throw weapons at him, and nothing harms him. What should be terrifying becomes almost a game. Laughter returns to Asgard. The gods see their shining Baldr standing unharmed, and perhaps, for one brief moment, they allow themselves to believe the prophecy can be bent. But fate in Norse myth rarely arrives through strength alone. Sometimes it enters through the smallest overlooked thing. There is one plant that Frigg did not ask. Mistletoe. Too young, too harmless, too small to matter. And Loki notices. This is where the story changes. Because Ragnarok is not only caused by monsters in chains or serpents under the sea. It is also caused by blindness, by arrogance, by the one detail no one thought was dangerous. Loki takes that small forgotten thing and turns it into a weapon of fate. Baldr falls. The light of Asgard goes out. And after that, nothing feels certain anymore. In the mythological story, the gods mourn. The death of Baldr is not just the loss of one divine figure. It is the first deep wound in the world of the gods. It proves that beauty can be broken. It proves that love cannot always protect what it loves. It proves that even in Asgard, fate can enter quietly. From a scholarly point of view, Baldr's death has often been interpreted as one of the clearest signs that Ragnarok is not a sudden disaster. It is a collapse that begins from within. Trust breaks. Order weakens. Loki's place among the gods becomes impossible. The future Odin feared is no longer distant. It has touched the hull. And somewhere beyond Asgard, the things that were bound, buried, or forgotten seem to feel it. The world tree still stands. The gods still feast. The walls of Asgard still rise. But the air has changed. The prophecy is no longer only a warning spoken in shadow. It has taken its first life. And now the question becomes darker. If Baldr, the bright one, can fall, what happens when the winter comes? After Baldr falls, Asgard is no longer the same place. The halls may still stand. The fires may still burn. The gods may still gather beneath carved beams and golden shields. But something invisible has entered their world. The silence after Baldr's death is not ordinary grief. It is the silence of a prophecy beginning to breathe. In the mythological sources, the gods try to bring Baldr back. They send a messenger down into the realm of the dead, into the shadowed world ruled by Hel, where those who do not die in battle pass beyond the warmth of the living. The request is desperate. Let Baldr return. Let the bright one come home. And Hel gives a condition. If everything in the world weeps for Baldr, he may return. So the gods send word across creation. And the world mourns. Men weep. Gods weep. Stones weep. Trees weep. Metal weeps. It is one of the strangest and most haunting images in Norse mythology, the entire universe grieving for one fallen god, as if creation itself understands that Baldr's death is more than a tragedy. It is a sign. For a moment, hope almost returns. Almost. Because somewhere, one figure refuses to weep. A giantess, often understood in the tradition as Loki in disguise, withholds the final tear. And with that refusal, Baldr remains in the realm of the dead. The door closes. The light does not return. And now the gods know the disaster has not been stopped. It has only moved closer. This is where Loki's place among the gods finally breaks. For so long, Loki had lived in the dangerous space between companion and enemy. He had eaten with the gods. Traveled with them. Mocked them. Helped them. Betrayed them. He was the spark in the hall, the knife hidden in laughter, the shadow that made every victory uneasy. But after Baldr, there is no room left for uncertainty. The gods hunt him. In the myth, Loki hides far away, shaping himself into a salmon, slipping into water, trying to escape through the cold currents of the world. But even his cunning cannot save him forever. The gods catch him. They drag him back from his hiding place. And then comes the punishment. The old stories say Loki is bound beneath the earth. His bonds are not ordinary chains. They are made from the consequences of his own ruined family. Above him hangs a serpent, and from it falls venom, drop by drop. His wife, Sigyn, stays beside him, holding a bowl to catch the poison. But when the bowl fills, she must turn away to empty it. And in that brief moment, the drops fall. Loki twists against his bonds. The earth shakes. In the mythic imagination, this is not just punishment. It is pressure building beneath the world. A buried force waiting for release. And this matters because Ragnarok is not imagined as one sudden event. It is a chain. A series of locks breaking one after another. Baldr is gone. Loki is bound. Fenrir is chained. Jormungandr waits in the ocean. The dead sleep beneath the earth. Everything terrible has been contained. But nothing has been healed. Then the winter begins. Fimbulwinter. The great winter before the end. Not a single storm. Not one hard season. A winter that devours the memory of warmth. In the myths, Fimbulwinter is described as 3 winters with no summer between them. Snow drives from every direction. The sun loses its strength. The sky becomes iron. The earth hardens. Fields disappear beneath white silence. Rivers freeze. Doors shut. Smoke rises from lonely roofs into a sky that gives nothing back. At first, people wait for spring. Then they wait for any sign that the world still remembers spring. But no green returns. No harvest comes. No gentle thaw softens the ground. And as hunger spreads, something else collapses. Trust. The myth says that during this age, human bonds break apart. Families turn against families. Brothers fight brothers. The old laws fail. The promises that held the world together begin to crack like ice beneath a footstep. This is one of the darkest parts of Ragnarok, because the end of the world does not begin only with monsters. It begins with people forgetting how to live with one another. Order dies before the gods do. From a modern scholarly point of view, Fimbulwinter has often been read as more than supernatural weather. It reflects a northern world where winter was not just a season, but a force that could decide life or death. To imagine the worst possible winter was to imagine society itself under pressure. In the myth, that pressure becomes cosmic. The world tree trembles. Yggdrasil, the great living pillar of the worlds, begins to shake through its roots and branches. The worlds it holds together feel the coming break. Deep under the earth, ancient bonds weaken. In the sea, the old serpent stirs. In dark places, the dead begin to move. And somewhere in the frozen world, Fenrir pulls against his chain. The gods had feared him from the beginning. They had watched him grow too large, too strong, too quickly. They had tricked him into being bound with a magical cord, thin as silk, stronger than iron. For ages, Fenrir remained chained, his jaws open, his rage waiting in silence. But prophecy does not forget what has been delayed. During Ragnarok, Fenrir breaks free. Imagine the sound. Not just a chain snapping. A sound like mountains splitting. Like the sky tearing open. The wolf rises into the ruined world, no longer a prisoner, no longer a warning. His mouth opens so wide, the myths say, that his jaws stretch between earth and heaven. Fire burns from his eyes and nostrils. Before him, the old order seems small. And Odin knows. This is the wolf from the prophecy. This is the shape of his death. But Fenrir is not alone. Far out at sea, the waters begin to change. The ocean does not simply rise. It recoils, swells, and breaks its ancient boundaries, as if something beneath it has shifted in its sleep. Waves climb toward the land. Shores vanish. Ships are torn loose. The sea becomes a moving wall. Then Jormungandr rises. The Midgard serpent. The creature once cast into the ocean, so vast it grew around the world itself, biting its own tail in the depths. For ages, it had been hidden beneath the surface, a living boundary around human existence. People could sail above it. Storms could pass over it. The sun could glitter on the water. But beneath it all, the serpent waited. Now it releases its tail. The circle breaks. And when the serpent rises, the sea rises with it. The world is no longer held in place. This is one of the great images of Ragnarok, the wolf breaking the land, the serpent breaking the sea, and the sky darkening above them both. The threats the gods once pushed away now return from every edge of creation. And then comes the ship. Naglfar. The ship of the dead. In the myths, Naglfar is a terrifying vessel, sometimes said to be made from the nails of the dead. It is not a ship of adventure or glory. It is a sign that the dead themselves are joining the final movement of fate. When the waters rise and the bonds of the world loosen, Naglfar breaks free and sails across the flood. Its passengers are not heroes seeking Valhalla. They are the forces of ruin. The old sources differ in details, as mythological traditions often do. But the image remains powerful. Across a drowning world, a dark ship moves toward the final battlefield, carrying enemies of the gods into the last age. And at its center, Loki is free. The bound one has broken loose. The buried fire has returned to the surface. He does not come now as the clever guest of Asgard, or the uneasy companion of Thor, or the voice of mockery at divine feasts. He comes as an enemy of the gods, sailing with the forces that will bring the old world down. This is what makes Ragnarok so tragic. The end does not come only from outside. It comes from every unfinished wound. Every fear the gods tried to chain. Every betrayal they tried to survive. Every monster they could not kill. Every truth Odin discovered too late. Now the worlds are moving toward one place. Vigrid. The plain of the final battle. A field wide enough to hold gods, giants, monsters, the dead, and everything fate has been gathering since the beginning. And then the Watcher sees. Heimdall, guardian of the gods, stands at the edge of Asgard. He is the one who hears the grass grow and the wool on sheep. He sees farther than ordinary sight. He watches the bridge between worlds. He has waited for this moment longer than anyone would want to wait. Now there is no doubt. The signs have become the event. The winter has come. The wolf is free. The serpent has risen. The ship is sailing. Loki has returned. The enemies of the gods are approaching. So Heimdall lifts Gjallarhorn, the great horn. And he blows. The sound goes through the worlds. Not like music. Like a verdict. It rolls through Asgard's halls. It passes across Midgard's frozen fields. It travels down into shadowed roots and up through the branches of Yggdrasil. It wakes gods, warriors, and ancient fears. Every world hears what it means. The waiting is over. In Valhalla, the doors open. The warriors chosen by Odin, the Einherjar, rise for the battle they were always meant to fight. They had feasted, trained, and waited for this day, not because they believed they could avoid death, but because in this mythic world, courage is measured by walking into the fate already spoken. The gods prepare. Odin takes up his spear. Thor grips his hammer. Tyr, already marked by sacrifice, turns toward the battlefield. Freyr moves toward his doom. Heimdall stands ready for Loki. Across Asgard, there is no laughter now. No games. No illusion that fate can be tricked by a clever bargain or delayed by a stronger chain. This is the moment the Norse imagination made unforgettable. The gods do not march because they think they are immortal. They march because they are not. Odin has spent his existence gathering wisdom, but wisdom cannot save him. Thor has defended gods and humans with thunder in his hands, but strength cannot save him. The walls of Asgard have stood against enemies for ages, but walls cannot save them. The prophecy has arrived. And still, they go. Picture them leaving Asgard. The sky dark above them. Ravens circling in the bitter air. The world tree trembling behind them. Beyond the shining halls, the land stretches toward Vigrid, where the final battle waits beneath a broken sky. On one side march the gods and the warriors of Valhalla. On the other come giants, monsters, the dead, Loki, Fenrir, Jormungandr, and every force the old world tried to hold back. The universe has become a battlefield. Every warning has become real. Every chain has broken. Every hidden fear has stepped into the open. And now, at last, the gods walk toward the place where their names will become memory. But in the silence before the first blow, one mystery remains. When the battle begins, which god will fall first? The battlefield waits beneath a ruined sky. Vigrid stretches wide and cold, a plain large enough for the last story the old world will ever tell. The gods arrive from Asgard. The warriors of Valhalla stand with them. Across the field come giants, monsters, the dead, and the ancient enemy's fate has been gathering in silence. No one comes here by accident. Every figure on this field has been moving toward this moment since before they understood it. Odin rides at the front, the one-eyed god of wisdom, war, poetry, magic, and death. His ravens circle above him, black wings against the broken heavens. He has spent ages trying to learn the future. He has sacrificed, questioned, wandered, and searched the hidden places of creation. And now the future stands in front of him. Fenrir waits. The great wolf is no longer chained. No magical cord holds him. No trick can bind him. His presence is like a wound torn open in the world, the living shape of everything the gods feared and failed to destroy. Odin knows what the prophecy says. He knows the wolf is his ending. But this is the terrible beauty of Ragnarok. The gods do not walk into battle because they believe they can become immortal. They walk into battle because fate has named them, and still they choose to stand. In the mythological sources, the first great doom belongs to Odin. The Allfather rides toward Fenrir. For a moment, all the wisdom of Asgard seems to gather into one figure. The god who saw farther than any other. The god who knew more than any other. The god who feared the future more deeply because he understood it more clearly. And against him comes the wolf. Not evil in a simple way. Not a villain from a modern story. Fenrir is fate-given teeth. The old stories say Odin falls to the wolf. The prophecy does not bend. Wisdom does not save him. Power does not save him. The king of the gods, the seeker of secrets, the one who tried to hold the future in his hands, is swallowed by the ending he always knew was coming. And for one breath, the universe seems to stop. Because if Odin can fall, then everything can fall. But his death is not the end of his line. Odin's son Vidar steps forward. In the myths, Vidar is one of the silent gods, not always at the center of the great stories, not the loudest, not the most celebrated. But at Ragnarok, silence becomes strength. He comes to avenge his father. He faces Fenrir after Odin is gone. And here the story offers something powerful. The old world dies. But not without answer. Vidar defeats the wolf. The beast that no chain could hold, the creature that brought down Odin himself, is finally overcome. Yet the victory does not undo the loss. Odin does not rise again in triumph. The myth does not erase grief just because vengeance arrives. That is not the world of Ragnarok. Here, every victory costs something. And across the battlefield, another old enemy is waiting. Thor sees the sea moving. Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, has risen from the ocean and come onto the land. Around it, the air is heavy with poison. The waters that once hid it now flood the edges of the world. The boundary between sea and earth has broken. Thor, the defender of gods and humans, moves toward it. This is not the playful thunder god of modern popular culture. In the older myths, Thor is a force of protection, strength, and direct action. He is the one called when giants threaten the gods. The one whose hammer keeps chaos from overrunning the worlds. And Jormungandr is his opposite. The serpent of the deep. The hidden danger beneath the surface. The thing that surrounds the human world. Their conflict has appeared before in Norse myth, as if the stories themselves kept warning that these two were destined to meet again. But at Ragnarok, there is no interruption. No escape. No next time. Thor raises Mjolnir. The serpent rises. Thunder meets the sea. The myths say Thor kills Jormungandr. The world serpent falls. The creature that encircled Midgard is finally destroyed. For one instant, it almost feels like victory. But Ragnarok does not give victory cleanly. Thor takes 9 steps. Only 9. Then he falls. The serpent's poison has already entered the air around him. The great defender of the world defeats his enemy, but he cannot survive the cost of doing it. This is one of the most tragic images in the entire myth. Thor does what he was born to do. He protects the world from the monster beneath it. And then the world loses him too. The old Norse imagination understood something hard and honest. Sometimes courage does not mean surviving. Sometimes courage means spending everything you are on the thing that must be done. Elsewhere on the field, the pattern repeats. Tyr, the god who once placed his hand in Fenrir's mouth so the wolf could be bound, faces another terrible hound in the final battle. Freyr, associated with fertility and peace, meets the fire giant Surtur. Heimdall, the shining watchman who sounded the horn, meets Loki, the old breaker of trust. Each confrontation feels like the closing of a circle. Tyr, who sacrificed for order. Freyr, who represents life, standing before fire. Heimdall, guardian of the gods, facing the one who helped bring the gates down. And Loki. Loki, who once moved among the gods. Loki, who laughed in their halls. Loki, who helped them and harmed them until the difference could no longer be forgiven. In the final battle, Loki and Heimdall destroy each other. The Watcher and the Deceiver. The Guardian and the Boundary Breaker. The horn that warned the worlds and the fire that crept beneath them. Both fall. And with them, one of the deepest tensions in the myth comes to an end. The gods cannot restore what Loki broke. Loki cannot escape the ruin he helped unleash. The battlefield becomes a place where every old debt is paid. But even this is not the final destruction. Because beyond the gods, beyond the monsters, beyond the fallen warriors, there is fire. Surtur comes from the south with flame. In the mythological sources, he is a fire giant whose burning sword brings the last devastation. This is not ordinary fire. Not a torch. Not a hearth. Not the useful flame of human life. This is the fire that closes an age. It moves across the world. Asgard burns. Midgard burns. The branches of Yggdrasil tremble beneath the heat. The sky darkens. Stars disappear. The earth sinks beneath the sea. The old world, with all its halls, oaths, fears, songs, and prophecies, is swallowed by flame and water. And now the story reaches its most haunting silence. Because after all the warnings, after the winter, after the wolf, after the serpent, after the horn, after the gods have walked toward their fate, Ragnarok becomes what Odin always feared. An ending. The gods die. The world burns. The sea closes over what remains. But Norse mythology does not leave the story there. And this is where Ragnarok becomes more than an apocalypse. In modern popular understanding, Ragnarok is often remembered as the Norse end of the world, a final battle where the gods are destroyed. And that is part of it. But in the old mythological vision, the ending is not only destruction. It is also a clearing. After the fire, after the sea, after the old world sinks, something impossible happens. The world rises again. Green. Silent. Renewed. The earth comes up from the waters fresh and living. Fields grow without being sown. The wounds of the old age are no longer everywhere. The air is different. The sun has not vanished forever. A daughter of the sun continues her path through the sky. And some gods survive. Not all. Never all. Ragnarok does not pretend loss can be undone. But Vidar survives. Vala survives. Modi and Magni, sons of Thor, survive and inherit their father's hammer. Other divine figures return or remain, depending on the version and interpretation of the sources. And most haunting of all, Baldr comes back from the realm of the dead. The Bright One returns after the darkness. The god whose death began the collapse becomes part of the new world after it. That detail changes everything. Because suddenly, Ragnarok is not only the story of gods dying. It is the story of what death makes possible. The old order had to fall. The chains had to break. The hidden monsters had to surface. The fears could not stay buried forever. The world could not continue pretending that what was bound was the same as what was healed. This is why Ragnarok still feels powerful. It does not offer a simple happy ending. It offers something stranger. A world can end. And still, something can rise from the water. In the myth, two human beings also survive, hidden in a place sometimes described as a wood or shelter, preserved through the destruction. From them, humanity begins again. The old sources do not turn this into a triumphant celebration. It feels quieter than that. Almost fragile. A man and a woman. A green earth. The children of dead gods. A sun still crossing the sky. And memory. Memory of what was lost. That may be the deepest meaning of Ragnarok. It is not only about fear of death. It is about the question of how to live when death is certain. The Norse gods are not immortal rulers outside the struggle. They are inside it. They know the future contains loss, and still they choose action, loyalty, courage, and honor. Odin still seeks wisdom. Thor still protects the world. Heimdall still sounds the horn. The gods still march. Even when the prophecy cannot be escaped. Scholars often interpret this as part of a wider Norse concern with fate. In the old heroic worldview, greatness is not measured by avoiding doom. It is measured by how one meets it. The hero does not need to believe he will win forever. The god does not need to believe he will never fall. What matters is whether he stands when the horn sounds. And perhaps this is why the story has survived. Not because people enjoy imagining destruction, but because every age has its own Ragnarok. Every culture knows the fear that the world it understands may one day collapse. Every generation sees signs it does not know how to read. Winters come in different forms. Oceans rise in different ways. Old orders shake. Trusted walls fail. The future feels, at times, like a wolf pulling against its chain. And yet, the myth refuses to end in the ashes. It imagines green life after fire. It imagines children after gods. It imagines light returning after the death of Baldr. That does not make Ragnarok comforting. It makes it honest. Because renewal in this story is not cheap. It does not arrive because nothing was lost. It arrives because everything was lost, and still the world was not finished. The old gods knew the end was coming. They knew the wolf. They knew the serpent. They knew the winter. They knew the ship of the dead would sail. They knew the horn would sound. And when it did, they did not hide from the story. They entered it. That may be why Ragnarok is still more than a mythological apocalypse. It is a mirror held up to every human fear, the fear that what we love can fall, that wisdom may not save us, that strength may not be enough, that the future may already contain losses we cannot outrun. But it also asks another question. A quieter one. After the gods have fallen, after the halls have burned, after the sea has swallowed the old world, what remains? Maybe a field rising green from the water. Maybe a few survivors carrying memory into the dawn. Maybe the children of thunder holding the hammer of a dead father. Maybe Baldr, the lost light, walking again beneath a new sun. Or maybe the answer is not only inside the myth. Maybe it is inside us. Because humans have always imagined the end of the world. We have imagined it in fire. In flood. In darkness. In winter. In silence. Again and again, across cultures and centuries, we return to the same impossible vision, the day everything we know disappears. But why? Why do we keep telling stories about the end? Is it because we fear destruction? Or because somewhere deep inside us, we need to believe that even after the final night, even after the gods themselves have fallen, something can still survive?